A new study on teacher preferences and job satisfaction in South Africa has revealed that many teachers feel overworked, overwhelmed by administrative tasks and in need of greater mental health support. These findings are based on an extensive nationwide survey of over 1,500 teachers to gain deeper insights into their experiences, challenges and motivations. Joining us now is Dr. Heleen Hofmeyr. She's from the research on socio-economic policy from the Stellenbosch University and joins us now via our video line. Dr. Hofmeyr, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. Let's start off here. What would you say prompted this research?
Great, thanks for having me. Sorry, is my sound okay?
You sound perfect.
Okay, sorry, I can just hear an echo. So we have embarked on a study that's called the Teacher Demographic Dividend Study, TDD, where we were looking at data about how many teachers were leaving the profession due to retirement. And what we found looking at this data was there were actually many teachers who were leaving the profession before retirement. So they had trained to become teachers and then decided that this was not for them. So we really wanted to investigate what are some of the factors that were driving teachers out of the profession.
And some of your findings, say that some of these teachers you conducted this research on, say they feel overwhelmed. What was really overwhelming in that sense, where some, were forced to even leave before retirement age?
Yeah, so there were three major things that contributed to teachers' overwhelm. The number one reason that teachers cited for overwhelm was the administrative tasks and the burden of all the administration that they had to do. There was just so much paperwork. And I think what was particularly frustrating was this sense that the paperwork was repetitive and in some instances redundant. So it was this feeling that it was just about ticking a box and that nothing was really being done with all of these reams and reams of paperwork that they were submitting. Secondly, it became very clear that teachers extend beyond their roles as educators. They act as social workers, psychologists, in many cases, even caregivers to children. I think in the very difficult circumstances that we have in our country, for a lot of children, their teacher is the only stable adult that they see in their lives. So the emotional strain of having to fulfill these roles that teachers are not trained for definitely came out in our study. And lastly, low skills levels among students came out as a major cause of overwhelm among teachers. We hear these stats like 80% of grade 4s can't read, but we seldom think, what does that mean for teachers? We spoke to teachers who said to us, they're teaching grade 8s, grade 10s, who cannot even read. And now they're having to teach them biology or history, whatever it may be. So it really there was a major sense of overwhelm and helplessness that they really were expected to perform miracles in a lot of cases.
And when it comes to, someone feeling overwhelmed, that's also always linked to mental health as well. How prevalent was mental health that was raised by teachers in your research?
So our study did not explicitly seek to understand mental health issues. It was about job satisfaction. But as we spoke to teachers, we realized that there really is so much stress and overwhelm being experienced by teachers. And I think one of the things that we really, really need to look at is providing mental health support to teachers. As I mentioned, they take on these roles as psychologists that they're not trained for. So we need mental health professionals in schools, both for teachers, but for learners as well, so that burden can also be removed from the shoulders of teachers.
And often some teachers would always talk about, separating themselves from their work and home. How common was that when it came to, some of the teachers that you spoke to, when it comes to trying to separate and balance the two aspects?
Yes, that's a great question. So we asked in our survey, do you agree with the statement that your job allows you to have work-life balance? And overwhelmingly, the majority of teachers said, absolutely not. I have no work-life balance. And I think this speaks to kind of deconstructing an impression that we often have that teaching is this kind of relaxed career because you only work until 3 p.m. and then you have these long holidays. What we found through our surveys and our interviews with teachers, just this is not the case. Teachers take their work home with them. The admin that they have to do, the marking, they have to prepare for lessons. I think we forget that when that school day ends, there's a whole mountain of tasks that teachers still have to perform. These long holidays that we think teachers have, so many teachers told us how that time is spent preparing lessons for the next term, sometimes even attending training that's required by districts. So definitely this idea that, into teaching because you're going to have a work-life balance definitely wasn't true from the conversations we had with teachers.
And when it came to some teachers being, stressed and overwhelmed, would you say that there was a huge difference in terms of teachers in primary school and high school?
So our high school teachers definitely reported a much greater sense of overwhelm. And I think part of the reason for this is the behavioral issues that they encountered in the classroom. Teenagers it's a time of life that's challenging for anyone. But I think what was particularly striking was the reports of gangs that children were involved with, violence that they were experiencing at home. And this was manifesting as serious behavioral issues. We had instances of teachers telling us where they themselves had been the victims of violence. I mean, we've just seen in Gauteng and the Free State this past week instances of violence against teachers. And I think that really has a profound impact on high school teachers more so than primary school teachers.
What are some of the interventions your research came up with that can assist in, ensuring that teachers don't feel as overwhelmed and stressed as they are usually saying?
So I think the first thing we need to do is try to take a little bit off the plate of teachers. And the easiest way to do that is to review what is all this administrative work that teachers are being expected to do. What is the point of every task that they're expected to do? Are there some of them that are non-essential? And can we think about maybe cutting back on some of the admin that teachers have to do? So that's the first recommendation. Secondly, I think it's very clear that we need psychosocial professionals in all schools. People say that's such an unrealistic expectation, that's never going to happen. But we have psychologists, clinical psychologists in all of our prisons. Maybe we wouldn't have so many prisons if we had psychologists in schools. And thirdly, there's a clear need to train teachers in remedial teaching strategies. Teachers need to know how to deal with a child who reaches grade 8 and does not have mastery of the curriculum up to that point.
All right, Dr. Heleen Hofmeyr, thank you so much for your time. That's Heleen Hofmeyr. She's from the Stellenbosch University there, just telling us more about that study in which she has conducted looking into the well-being of educators in our school.